everyone, Adam Harris here. It is Sunday evening, the 10th of January 2021. So welcome back. For those of you who might only be kicking off this week, I'm going to be starting off with the dollar index, looking at the major currencies. Just having a look at the news. There's very little high impact news this week. There's one or two things on the US dollar, predominantly Thursday and Friday, really not significant at this point in time, so I don't really have any major concerns with scheduled news, and I think the ongoing kind of political drama seem to have played out relatively smoothly in the markets. I don't think they're necessarily a surprise to anyone who's been paying attention, and I think it's likely that they're going to unfold in the direction in which they look like they are, and so I don't really expect the markets to do to have any big things unless there's some sort of perhaps a military intervention at this point in time, something significantly higher, but I think that it's not impossible, but I don't think it's likely. So having a look at the dollar index here, what I do want to point out, which I think is noteworthy, is we're hovering around the $90 mark, but actually where this is significant is looking at the bigger picture. This is a significant price support resistance level. 90 is quite significant, and the dollar index has bobbed between these levels for a while. So as much as I would like to see it continue to weaken, this is really a key part. It's very valid. It's very possible that price could continue to range for several years if that is the case. So I'm just saying that the possibility of price reversing from where we are is potentially real. As much as I'd like it to break out of that range, I'd need it to really hit past these lows. And it's just producing a bit of a bullish candle there on the monthly basis. And I just want to reiterate that there is a possibility that the dollar could stay within this range. And then if that is the case, and it's going to basically work its way back up to 100, then what we're going to see over the coming weeks and days is we're going to be seeing a stronger US dollar. So the first thing I want to highlight here is that there is bullish divergence on the daily. All right, bullish divergence on the daily. We've got a key level that could potentially reverse. I think the probabilities of price heading up towards 91 this week is very high. I don't think the price is that overextended on the weekly, so I don't necessarily believe the price is going to head up to 91 or 92 or necessarily much further than that. But I would say that this week the probability of it heading higher is much stronger. Then moving across and having a look at the euro dollar. Euro dollar's got bearish divergence on both indicators. I do think it's potentially going to head lower this week. Again, it's not very overextended on the weekly. So there's no, so because of all things being equal, I wouldn't necessarily expect this to head much further than say 1.2. But if this range is going to ultimately reverse, then of course it will potentially head much further. So I think my initial target is going to be 1.2 in the early stages of this week. Okay, so basically a stronger dollar, weaker euro. Then having a look at sterling. Sterling is kind of a little bit flat. It's not as bearish. Potentially that'll head back down, find a bit of support in the 1.35, 1.34 area before attempting to turn and head higher. Then have a look at Aussie dollar. Just a beautiful, really nice trend, but it is overextended on that weekly time frame. And a pullback in this particular case, I would say after a nice little run like this, again, it's a little bit bearish divergence on the RSI, but MACD looks fine. But if it does ultimately follow through, if the dollar pushes things around, if the dollar is serious about doing this, then I would say that it's quite realistic. The possibility that I could see Aussie dollar, US dollar head down towards 0.74 is a possibility. And I would say the shallowest is probably 0.75 into that area there. Okay, so I think that is certainly something I'm going to be watching out for on that 4-hour time frame and looking for breaks of the previous lows. Kiwi dollar, again, also tapping into that monthly resistance level, significant level. It's had a really nice long move up here. A move down towards this previous level, weekly level, 0.7050, also looking as is a potential, it's a possibility. I would say I have to mention here that Aussie dollar, US dollar, and Kiwi dollar, US dollar both look very, very healthy in every other respect, and therefore it would be beautiful to see them continue onwards. But I'm just thinking ahead of how that dollar, if that dollar is determined, it's going to very much kind of override a lot of this. And therefore, I'm looking at these levels within the context of the US dollar, not so much within the context of the Australian dollar. Dollar yen starting to break up through these highs, break up through this level of support, which didn't offer much resistance. Very strong bullish candle over here. And as I said before, dollar yen is largely a range bound type of currency. It has been for a while. So to me, the possibility of this hitting back over that 104.50 level is very valid. So I want to see how it reacts at that. I think it's going to push a little bit higher to tap on that. Dollar Swissy, dollar Swissy has generally been dropping lower in its own way. I think it's a bit overextended on the monthly. I would have liked to have seen it connect with 0.87 before reversing. So that is always a possibility. We get one more move down and then we get that reaction. And then I'm going to be looking to see how it reacts at 0.9. So that'll kind of be my initial targets for this week. Dollar CAD is also already starting to show very bullish divergence here. And a move back up to 1.29 and over the line is a possibility. Again, similar to Dollar Swissy, a lot of these have kind of paused before they got to a key level, which is always a little bit odd to me. So I'd be much more satisfied if I saw that price headed down before reversing, or vice versa, headed up and then continue down. So it's going to be an interesting, there's kind of some disconnects there. I'll have to have a look and see if that's the case. And so that's really it. I think to sum up, I anticipate there's a very strong possibility that we're going to see a stronger US dollar for various reasons, but also keeping in mind that the bigger picture now might change, at least for Q1, for the rest of Q1. And that I anticipate that most of the pairs will find themselves weakening against the US dollar. I'll be keeping an eye on those key levels and on the lower time frames for intraday trading, potentially trading them back down to those lower time frames. And I'll be monitoring the 4-hour for confirmation that the trend is starting to shift on the daily ahead of time. It'll kind of start to show its cards, especially on if it's doing it across multiple pairs. And that's it. No real other major news, as I said, and therefore not looking for anything other than stuff that's unexpected to potentially create some increased volatility in the markets. That's all. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful week, and I'll chat to you next week.